BGGcon! There's no better way to wind down the board game convention season than with the final convention that focuses on hanging out with fellow lovers of the hobby and just gaming together. That's why each November, BGGcon is attended by several thousand gamers and one inflatable dinosaur. Now, in addition to the gaming hall, BGGcon also features a vendor hall, where I was working for a portion of the convention. But I grabbed my camera each and every morning to try and get a few words from various publishers and podcasters regarding some of the questions and hot games that I'd heard about during the convention. Here's several of those interviews, starting with Mike and Rob at the Dice Tower booth about their experiences hitting the convention circuit for the very first time this year.
All right, so I've snuck into the Dice Tower booth without permission to talk to both Mike and Rob, because one thing I thought was interesting is you guys actually cut your teeth on this year's summer conventions. You went to Origins,
Yep,
and you were at Gen Con.
for the first time.
For the first time each. And this is also your first BGGcon.
Yep.
And so the big talk about BGGcon is that it's always such a different atmosphere than those other conventions. So I wonder, does it live up to the hype? Does it the expectations? What has been your guys' experience between them?
I think we have a lot more of our base at Gen Con.
I believe, yes, that's absolutely true. Gen Con's a bigger convention, so more of the team goes there.
More of the team goes there. I think
Yeah.
I think the fans are more receptive to us at Gen Con.
Yep.
I really think that our base as a whole, as a website.
Yes.
I mean, that's my opinion.
Yeah.
How was it for you at Origins?
You know, Origins was super busy because they had so many of the game developers coming and giving 10-minute interviews that the tables in the back and the videos were just constantly going. Then they had the live show, lots going on. So definitely this is a lot more laid back. Sometimes you kind of look down the hall, you say something, you'll hear it echo, just kind of wondering where the people are. But this is a gaming convention. That's what people are here to do. So they'll come through the halls, they'll look for free stuff, they'll support the Dice Tower, which is what they need to do. And basically everyone's having a great time. So
Awesome.
The one thing about it is that you get the feel that it's the end of the convention season. This is the last one, and a lot of designers, you could see it, and publishers, you could just see it on their face. They're exhausted. They had enough, and they're just kind of laid back a little bit more. Where when it was Gen Con, Dice Tower Con and stuff like that, it's like this big build up to this big bang.
Yeah.
And then
that's true.
And here we are. It's kind of like, okay, let's go home.
And I'm not seeing very many new releases here at BGGcon. I'm not sure why. I thought this was the place where they did that kind of thing, but apparently not.
Well, you live, you learn.
I'm learning.
All right.
One other thing, though, and I'll just say it real quick, is I'm amazed at how these people play games, because I've gone and the whole thing was filled at like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. And then 9 o'clock, the thing's filled again. It's like they never left for all 3 days. Other conventions, the gaming rooms are just, there's a certain time, but then here, it's just like we have to game 24 hours. It's like, this is it.
Yeah.
We're never going to game again.
In fact, I couldn't even find a table that last night, about midnight even.
At midnight?
Just walking around, looking for a table. It was just so full. I mean, of course, they probably need to add more tables, which is part of the problem, but for the most part, people love to game here.
Well, I believe there are plans to grow into a larger facility within the next couple of years.
It's not a bad idea. Yeah. Definitely. So I'm enjoying it. My first BGG. We'll see about next year.
Yes, awesome. All right. Well, thank you guys. I'll let you get back to work. And
we have lots to do.
Yeah, we have lots to do.
All right.
And of course, you can't have a board game convention without people asking what the hot game of that convention is. Well, in my opinion, the hot game of BGGcon this year was Terraforming Mars from Stronghold Games. When the vendor hall opened on the very first day, it seemed like every single person that walked by was carrying a copy of this game that they just bought. So I managed to pin down a very busy Stephen Bonacore of Stronghold Games to ask him what he thought about all this.
And if there is a game of BGGcon, it seems to be this one has been Terraforming Mars.
Oh, that's very nice of you. Thank you.
When I've been over at my booth, I saw everyone first 20 minutes of the show. Everyone that walked by had a copy of it, and everyone's been playing and talking about it. So I was going to ask you, did it sell out? If so, how fast? And then what do you think about that? And what would be your picking a non-stronghold game, what would be your game of the con?
Sure. Well, yeah, absolutely. Terraforming Mars is killing it for us. It sold out in 14 minutes on the first day. Yeah, we had 70-something copies of the game to sell, and it was like Gen Con pandemonium. Right now, we're before the show starts, so no one's in the hall right now. But this aisle right here in front of us was mobbed with people, and I was cutting through it with a credit card swiper, trying to get everybody out of here as soon as I can. So both Terraforming Mars and Great Western Trail, that sold out in 25 minutes, 60 copies of that. So both of them are just doing huge for us. And somebody came back like later that day and said every row in the exhibit, in the Enterprise Ballroom, the main gaming area, had at least one copy of Terraforming Mars being played, and one table had 2 copies like being played right next to each other, which is pretty amazing. So yeah, it's been fantastic, and it's it is a great game, and I really think that theme is just latching people on, and they're really just loving the Mars theme and the fact that this is where kind of humanity is going at some point in the future. Most of the call, as far as like other great games for the con, I have been playing almost nothing else, of course, except for my games here. But I know that my buddies over at Z-Man Games have Feast of Odin, and I know that's been very hot as well. So,
speaking of publishers, another publisher that has really caught my eye this year is Renegade Game Studios. They're a relatively new company, founded in 2014. But even so, their lineup of games this year, some of which include Apotheca, The Blood of an Englishman, Clank, and Covert, really interest me. Now, their swath of games this year covers a pretty broad spectrum of genres, and some have wondered if that will be a strength or a hindrance to Renegade. Well, I spoke with Sarah Erickson from Renegade to get her thoughts on that very subject.
Renegade this last year with like Clank and Covert, you guys, it seems like Renegade's been exploring some different genres and mechanisms that are kind of outside the norm for you guys. So I thought this would be a great opportunity to see if you agree or disagree and why. So I'll let you take it from there.
Okay, great. So we are a new company for sure, but one really important thing about us is that we've always just wanted to make games that are really great for every gamer. So people getting into the industry, people who've been here for a while, we just want to make great games. And when we see a great game, we're going to make it. And I think that Clank is a really good example of that. We never intended on making deck building games because we felt like there are a lot of them out there. Maybe that's not something we can do that would be special and fun. But then we found Clank, and it just does something so different, so unique. And I think that it's very accessible. It can bring new gamers into the market, which is awesome. So we published it. And that's going to be true for any game that we find that just really hits that spot that's special and new and fun. And why not pick that up and publish it? But it has to still be a good fit for us. So the other thing that's really important is that it's beautiful. And we really want to make games that are helping to get new people into the market and giving those people a really good experience. I think a lot of that is just making gorgeous games that are actually good content inside.
Cool. Fair enough. Sounds good. I think that's a good design philosophy. So
it's working out.
And finally, as I was wrapping up with Renegade, I happened to bump into David Wilkinson, the designer of the upcoming tile-laying game Castles of Colladale. Well, I couldn't resist the opportunity to discuss this game with its designer, and David, of course, was more than happy to answer all of my questions. So here are those answers to those questions.
This is Castles of Colladale. It's a tile-laying game, and what happens is you have the backstory is you have the beautiful land of Colladale with castles all over the countryside, but our young wizard's apprentice who decides one day to try to use his magic to repair the castle he lives in, and unfortunately everything goes wrong. All 3 castles get ripped apart, torn apart, and the pieces are scattered across the land. And so now it's up to the players to rebuild their castles. So they'll take on the roles of either the gnomes or the wizards themselves or the fairies, and they'll use the tiles you see here to build their own castle. The goal of the game is to build as large a castle as possible and as complete. So what I mean by complete is you see sky all the way around here. That's a complete castle. And I have another image here that sort of shows the scoring mechanism. So again, here's a finished castle showing how to add up the score. Sky all the way around, showing that it's complete. However, here and here, it's not complete, so you get negative points for that. The way the mechanics work is you simply draft tiles from here. You bring them, one at a time. So you take a tile, I might place it, and then as I'm building my castle and choosing tiles, I can rearrange at any point. The game ends when all the tiles are gone, and you score it up. Supports 2 to 4 players, and there's a solo variant. And again, it's kind of the goal is to make a family-oriented game where people can create beautiful things that they can be proud of. So,
with the scooping and the tile placement,
yeah.
From a designer standpoint,
yeah.
What did you do to prevent it from just turning into a chaotic mess?
Sure, yeah, it's a good question. So what happens naturally is you start building your castle, and you'll make tweaks and adjustments here, but in general, you're not just rebuilding completely because there are enough choices with the tiles, and there's enough sort of ways to manage that so that it doesn't become a complete mess. So
you kind of have checks and balances built in.
Right.
Tiles.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
So it's not just a take that type of environment.
Right. And it's not overwhelming either. So for a 2-player game, you can reduce the number of tiles to something manageable. Each player will get about 24 tiles. When you go to 3 or 4 players, you just introduce another stack of them. And then again, the castle sizes are manageable, not too big, not too small. So, yeah.
All right. I have like 1 minute before I got to go to my booth.
Okay.
Anything else about it? Availability, how long it took you to design?
Sure, yeah. So I started in 2011. I went to a bunch of trade shows. The first time that I got it out in the public was at Boston Festival of Indie Games. That was really great for me to show it to people and get feedback. And then I met with Scott in 2014 at Renegade, and we signed a contract then, and it's taken a couple years to sort of finish up the development, but it comes out in February of 2017. So.
And it's like going to press like this next week, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. We're finishing up all the artwork you see is final. The tiles were hand cut by me in my basement, but otherwise the artwork's final, and we're just finishing up the rules right now. So.
Sounds great. I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So there you go. Whether you got a chance to actually go to BGGcon or you just visited it vicariously through videos like this, I hope that you have enjoyed this convention and this entire year of gaming. I wanted to say thank you to everyone who took the time to stop by and say hi to me at the convention. I really appreciate it, and it was just one of the highlights of the entire show. And until next year's convention season starts, I hope that everybody has a happy, hopping holiday season, and I'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.
Quiet on the set, please. No.